Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I love the month of October. I think it's a month of greatness. 70 years ago, this institution came into being in October. We do great work here. And then about halfway between then and today, I was born in October, which is a good thing because otherwise I wouldn't be here today to tell you about something that happened 20 years ago in October, when the Working for Water program was launched. This is a national program focusing on the management of invasive alien plants. What we are doing, I'm presenting some ongoing work that we are doing with colleagues, looking at some successes that the program has achieved. In recent times, the program has come under a bit of attack from critics, criticizing it for not getting on top of the problem of invasion in the country. But I hope by the time I'm through with my presentation, you will see that it's not all doom and gloom. There are some successes that have been achieved. So my colleagues and I have been engaging with some people involved in the program in these particular projects that I will be showcasing today. I'm specifically avoiding the word interview because people become skittish and nervous when scientists want to interview them. They think they are on some witch hunt. So we've been engaging with people to find out what has contributed to the success of the projects that they are involved in. So what is the problem exactly? Invasive alien plants are baddies. They are mean. They rank right up there together with climate change and habitat loss in terms of major threats to global ecosystems, threats to natural capital. And from the previous speaker, you have realized that our mere well-being is dependent on natural capital. So invasive alien species are a growing problem. They're a global problem. And in 2001, it was estimated that in South Africa, over 8% of our land is under invasion. Why are they such a problem? I mean, these birds, most of them coming from Australia, by the way, come with a plethora of problems, from reducing land potential. I mean, if you've got degraded land, if you've got invaded land, there's not much else that you can do with that land. It leads to loss of biodiversity. Some of these plants are poisonous to humans and livestock. The damage caused by fires that go through plantations is really massive because there is so much biomass and the intensity of the fires is quite high. So the damage, the risk, the fire risk as a result of invasion is quite high. And of more relevance to my talk today is the impact of these plants on stream flow and water availability. Some modeling and scenario planning was done to try and estimate just how big the impact would be if the problem of invasion was left unattended to. For example, in a catchment that receives about 1,200 mils of rainfall, and the runoff estimated at about 472 millimeters, it would cost 100 rands per hectare to clear. But then if that was not done, in about 10 to 20 years, we would be sitting with a situation where same rainfall, but runoff reduces by about 36%, and the cost increases by an order of magnitude to about 1,000 rands per hectare. Fast forward another 20 years later, and the situation looks really bleak with 74% reduction in mean annual runoff. Being in a water-stressed country, I mean, it has come up yesterday during some talks as well as today. Water is a scarce resource. We are a water-stressed country, But it's not just a problem unique to South Africa, it's a global problem. I mean, if stuff is discussed at the United Nations level, you know that it's a really serious issue. These are just photos of covers of some reports that have been produced for the United Nations dealing with this issue. Coming back home now, the ovals and circles that you see there are what we call strategic water source areas. We've got 21 of those in the country. They cover 8% of our land area, but they are responsible for about 50% of our water. So these are our water factories. Now, if you overlay that with the map that you probably saw it earlier when Mark was presenting, that's a map of invasions. You can see the congruence between those. The invasion levels are quite high, right where our water factories are. Some clever people actually did some modeling and married those two. What that map shows is percentage reduction in mean annual runoff. The darker the color, or the redder the color, the worse the situation is. Now, if you're sitting with a situation where you already have scarce water resources, you don't want to be losing any of that water, let alone up to 25 to 34%. You just want to avoid that situation. Fortunately, about 20 years ago, we had a few wise men and women who had the insight, the scientific insight. They understood just how much of a threat invasive alien plants are to our water resources. And being a new democracy, one of the pressing challenges in the country was poverty and unemployment. So these people thought, oh, okay, there is all this money, this funding available to deal with this pressing challenge of unemployment. How can we marry the challenge of water scarcity or the management of invasive alien plants to manage water availability? So they came up with this wonderful plan, which gave birth to the Working for Water program. The program was initiated to clear invasive alien plants, to release water, at the same time creating much needed jobs. The goals of the program, because the program was initially funded from an extended public works program fund, the socioeconomic goal was that of poverty alleviation and job creation. And this was very critical for political buy-in. And indeed, it's still one of the factors that have ensured that the program continues. There are agricultural and ecological goals as well as, like I mentioned previously, hydrological goals. I will be showing in the next slides how the program has achieved these goals by showcasing 3 case studies. The program has grown from a budget of a few million rands back then. Now it has grown to become this big multi-program monster, so to speak, with a budget of over 2 billion. There are other programs that have been modeled after the Working for Water program. We now have Working on Fire, Working for Wetlands, working on anything you can think of, really. The projects that I am going to highlight today are 3. There's the Berg River Dam project down in the Western Cape, set on an area of just over 11,000 hectares. And then there is Phinda Private Game Reserve, where they are using, the model used there is the herbicide assistance program, where the department helps landowners who want to manage alien plants on their land by giving them herbicides. So management of the operations is entirely upon the landowner. Then the third example I'm going to talk about is a project in Matatiele in the Eastern Cape, which is the Upper Umzimvubu catchment study. It's being implemented on about 4,000 hectares of land. The different projects range in age from 14 years to just about 2 years. The Matatiele project is rather young. The location of the projects is shown there with the red arrows. You can see that the placement of the Berg River project and the Berg River project down here and the Matatiele project, those projects fall smack bang within our water factories. So they are of very strategic importance in terms of water provision. Then Phinda Private Game Reserve up there. The goals there are really for increasing or maintaining the tourism potential of the place. Now into more details about each of the projects. That's a photo taken at the Berg River Dam during some clearing. Just a brief background on this project. A dam was commissioned to be built, but when the Department of Water Affairs and Forestry was planning the dam, they considered the basin, not just the river, but where the water would come from. And this was quite a first for the country, because usually when engineers think about dams, they don't consider the surrounding environment. So this was quite innovative. The clearing of the plantations around where the dam would be was then built into the proposal for the dam. Clearing has been ongoing and there has been follow-up. The dam was built and it's a very strategic, it's very important for Cape Town because it's the most important water source for Cape Town. That's what the area looks like now. We went there in June. The plantations are gone. Natural vegetation is coming up. And that's all due to the hard work of the people employed through the program. The Working for Water program is very big on employment creation. It has to be labor intensive in order to provide jobs. So this is the kind of stuff that people who were previously unemployed go out to do, and the results are really heartwarming. Then we move on to Phinda Private Game Reserve. It's quite a lanny place. Well, I haven't been, but I hear from the rates on their website, I can see that it's quite a lanny place. People pay top dollar to go and experience Africa, to see the big five. But now, from that picture, their problem there is chromolina. It would be very difficult to spot anything there. I mean, even to spot an elephant would be, quite challenging. So what the owners did there, they chose to invest in clearing the invasive plants on their land to maximize tourism potential, and that is what you are left with after clearing. There's game spotting. I mean, if you're paying top dollar to be there, you want to get value for your money. So the results speak for the picture speaks for itself. This again is possible through the hard work of people, but because this is a private place, it's private land. The owner has the liberty to use machinery at the very beginning because they have to keep costs low. Unlike the other model that I showed where the drive is to create jobs and be as labor intensive as possible, here it's about minimizing costs and looking at the bottom line. So the landowner is free to use machinery at first, and then people can follow up with spraying herbicides. Lastly, the last project I want to showcase, which happens to be my favorite, is the one in Matatiele. The area is located in the grassland biome. So what you should be seeing in that picture is more of the stuff in the foreground and none of the stuff there. The problem there is black wattle, and it's hitting the community right where it hurts. This is a rural community. They are subsistence livestock farmers. So their grazing land has shrunk due to invasion by wattle. Now, secondly, there is a stream right where this picture was taken, and the amount of water that these plants take from the stream is quite a serious problem. When we were there about a month ago, the stream was running dry. So stakeholders from the surrounding community put out a tender to, not a tender, submitted a proposal to the Department of Environmental Affairs in what is called the Land User Incentive Program or project. People have been employed to chop down these wattles to increase grazing potential as well as to release water. Just to show you how bad it can be within those dense stands of acacia. Absolutely nothing grows. And with the construction of a dam on the Mzimvubu River, this is a big problem because you can imagine what happens when it rains. The amount of soil that is washed down to the rivers, which would eventually end up in the dam, reducing its capacity. So it's quite opportune that this clearing work is happening now to extend the life of the dam. Another thing these NRM projects are big on is the employment of women. They actually stipulate that there has to be 60% women employed in their projects. So these people work very hard. What was really heartwarming for me when I visited this project and I spoke to some of these beneficiaries, it's how people who have been living in poverty, people who have had no source of income, suddenly have something to look forward to. At the end of the month, they get some money. They are able to put bread on the table. They are able to buy clothes for their children, things we take for granted. They are able to send their children to school. This program has really made a real difference in people's lives. Like I said, it is hard work, but the commitment and the passion that these people show is seen in the quality of work. I have visited some sites, and I was really impressed with how much they take pride in how they do their work, the stacking that they do. They could very easily leave the wood lying around and the site being in a mess, but they are very passionate about what they do. And they have been this particular project has been very innovative. What they do after clearing, they set up crawls in the cleared areas. And this is it relates to something that Colin mentioned earlier, thinking outside the box and realizing that when we deal with these complex problems, we cannot only look to science, we have to look at other ways of doing things. What happens here is, after clearing, they set up crawls for 2 weeks at a site. All the cattle from the community then sleep in those crawls for 2 weeks. The trampling and the droppings, I mean, we all know that cows need to poop. Those droppings help to fertilize the area, and then you can see, the distinction is quite clear. The area on the left is where the kraal was set up. The area on the right is where there was no crawling. And this is after one season. So I hope this is something that can be, there's nothing scientific about how the method that was used, but the benefits are really, really outstanding. So when we asked what it is that contributed to the success, it's coming out quite often in our engagements with these people that It's all about planning, planning, planning. If you don't plan, you are really planning, but just planning to fail. To give you an example of the Berg River Dam, the incorporation of the costs of clearing into the initial plan of the building of the dam has been a real boost. It's been a critical success factor for that particular project. Without that initial boost, I mean, the managers I've spoken to really doubt that they would have managed to get to where they are today, to release so much water for the city of Cape Town. Another thing about planning, sorry about that. You need to know the problem that you're dealing with. You need to know how much resource or how much money essentially you have to deal with that problem. So the planning that was done here, they planned for the initial control, but also planned enough funds for follow-up treatment, because the thing with invasive alien plants, it's not a once-off thing. You need to keep on going back. It's like a marriage, really. You have to commit, and that brings me to the second point. If you don't commit, you may not be successful. Chances of success are really slim. Commitment not only speaks to committing financially, but it also speaks to going the long haul, understanding that it's a marriage. The management of invasive alien species is a long-term thing. So you have to have that vision. And it also speaks to when you're looking at managing invasive alien plants in a catchment scale, there are all sorts of different stakeholders, and all those people need to have buy-in. They have to have a common vision. So all those people need to commit, and this has happened at the Berg River Dam. It has happened in Matatiele. All the stakeholders are on board. They know what needs to be done, and they know how it needs to be done. They're all buying into it. Lastly, passion. Passion is necessary to succeed. Speaking to the people that we've spoken to again, you can see it in the way they talk about their work. They are passionate. They love what they are doing. They see the need for it. But passion also speaks to the previous 2 points. If you're not passionate, it will show in how you plan your work. The plan will be flimsy. There won't be any well-defined goals. You will definitely not commit if you're not passionate. So these 3 factors are all critical for success, and there are things that are coming out in the ongoing conversations we're having with people involved in these projects. Now, it's been 20 years since the launch of the Working for Water program, and despite the criticisms, there is evidence of gains. Water quantity has increased in the example that I showed. There are biodiversity gains. We can see natural vegetation coming up. It's critical to hold on to those gains, and to do that, we need to emphasize planning, commitment, and passion. This is all necessary for the long-term sustainability of the program. Another thing that's necessary, that's critical for the long-term sustainability of the program, is good data management. Because ultimately what needs to happen is learning from, there have been mistakes, obviously, just as much as there have been sterling examples. Data coming from all those examples needs to be managed well and made accessible in order for lessons learned to be replicated elsewhere and rolled out elsewhere. We will be, this work was commissioned by DIA, so they will be hearing about these recommendations. I want to acknowledge my co-authors. I'm not doing this work on my own. And going back to the issue of working in a transdisciplinary space and not being so scientific, in our trying to be transdisciplinary, we've also learned some sign language. So what we are saying there, what we are saying is working for water. And yeah, onwards and upwards to a great program. Thank you.